We made it, everybody. Happy NFL Draft Day 2025. We're going to take a last look at the latest reports, the odds, and prop bets for the 2025 NFL Draft that starts tonight. Today's Peacock and Williamson.
NFL analyst Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson bring you expert NFL analysis every day in less than 30 minutes. Get an inside look at the NFL on the field and in the front office with elite breakdowns to next-level analysis and in-depth information only for the real NFL fans. This is Peacock and Williamson, and it starts now.
Welcome to the Peacock and Williamson NFL Show. Brian Peacock alongside Matt Williamson at BD Peacock at Williamson NFL. Thanks, everybody, so much for making this your first listen right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, the everydayers that are with us all through draft season. It's a long haul, and then all of a sudden it's over so quickly, and we are now here. You know what, man? Push it back 2 more months. Let's draft in June.
Oh, yeah. I need to do more mock drafts and more. Right, yeah.
We're going to peep a few insider mock drafts that drop, the final mock drafts that have a lot of interesting intel and information in them, and we're going to go through the prop bets on FanDuel as well on today's show and take a peek at those and how that might inform us what we think the favorites are for these draft picks in 2025. This episode of Peacock and Williamson brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. Terms and conditions apply. Do you want to start with Daniel Jeremiah's mock draft? Because there was a few. There was quite a few eye-openers in this one. And I think one of the first eye-openers for me were the players that were not in his mock draft.
Oh.
So off-field character, medical, not running a 40 time, hurt some guys. So
there's a lot of questions around these top 50 guys.
Everyone's got questions.
Everyone's got stuff,
going to be bonkers. And I keep telling people this groupthink, it just happens every year. If Daniel Jeremiah dropped this mock draft a month ago, people would think he belongs in a psych ward.
Yeah, it's 100% true. Yeah,
Ray Zabel, number 11 to the 49ers.
Yeah.
You have Mason Graham falling past 5 was impossible just a week ago.
Shador all the way to 21 to the Steelers.
Shador at 21. Right. Nobody trades up to get him. In fact, I believe he had the Giants trading up in front of that to get Jackson Dart. So Dart, the QB2, Shador, the QB3, Mike Green, character concerns, Walter Nolan, character concerns, Josh Simmons, the knee, all not in the first round at all. Okay. And maybe the biggest shocker, Will Johnson didn't run a 40, not even in the first round, let alone top 10 pick.
Yeah, I'm kind of scrolling through it now, and I didn't realize the guys that were excluded. But that's pretty crazy. There are some big name guys that not that long ago, like you said, were, that's maybe a top 5 pick, things like that. I mean, that's insane to me. Kelvin Banks is the other one. This guy all of a sudden is like guaranteed in the top 10 overnight.
Kelvin Banks, yeah. He's not even going to get out of the top 10 at this point. Michael Williams, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, was the guy that I've been talking about. I was like, hey, look out for Michael Williams, maybe to the Niners at 11. He might not get to the Niners at 11. He's going to Saints in every insider mock draft now. And Ashton Genty, who you had to the Jaguars first, and for those on YouTube, I pulled the DJ mock up here, and Ashton Genty is like the chalk pick now at 5 for the Jaguars.
Yeah, and I get that. I mean, not that I'm some genius or anybody told me anything, but I just kind of looked at it like, well, the Bucs run the ball a lot, and the job number 1 of that coach was to get Lawrence's life back on track and make him into a winner. And Genty's potentially the best player in this draft, if not one of the top few. And frankly, there's no Joe Alt or Marvin Harrison's or other big time prospects. So you just take the guy that you know is going to be good.
Let's go through some of these draft props. We'll see what the Vegas betting odds are here, and look at FanDuel, and that might give us another clue to what we think might happen and what folks who have a lot of money riding on this thing think what will happen with these odds, and then we'll kind of bet along with it and take a look at these. So let's jump into these odds on FanDuel, and I think the number 1 pick, it's like plus or it's like minus 5 million, but I don't know what it is.
You can't make any money on
number one. And really, I think we're going to have to just fast forward to pick 5 because the odds are just so overwhelming. Travis Hunter at 2 and Abdul Carter at 3, although there has been some whispers of some potential trade opportunities for teams.
That's what I was going to say.
Up to 2, that the Giants are open to possibly trading out of pick 3. Could a team go up for Abdul Carter at 3? I think that's an interesting one as well. But that would still be the picks at 2 and 3 would be Abdul and Carter and Travis Hunter, even if it wasn't the Browns or the Giants. So I don't think
real quick through their eyes, though. I don't think we've talked about this enough. Like if I were the Browns, I would take Hunter. If I were the Giants, I would take Carter. That being said, I would rather have picks. I would rather have a wealth of picks than those players for those teams. Because I look at the Browns and think their once really good O-line is going to need totally rebuilt, and they don't have anything resembling a quarterback. You know, I mean, I would want to get those things in place before I go get my playmaker type guy. And we've talked about this a lot. Like Carter's a really good player, but they don't really need an edge. You know, like if I could get 4 or 5 quality picks and then I take Dart at 18, if that's who you love, or Sanders or whoever, that makes more sense to me for those teams. So maybe they'll listen to offers.
I think it's kind of like, it depends on how much they like Kayvon Thibodeau, really, is what it comes down to me.
Yeah.
Because you would have to trade Kayvon Thibodeau. And so instead of getting draft picks in a Carter in a move down from 3, you would trade Kayvon Thibodeau instead and take Carter and use that as collateral to help you get out to draft Jackson Dart. Would you rather have Jackson Dart and Abdul Carter and maybe an extra pick, or would you rather have Kayvon Thibodeau and Jackson Dart? And I would probably still draft Abdul Carter and then try to trade Kayvon Thibodeau later for some picks and then go get your quarterback. Or I would just wait until round 2 and not worry about Jackson Dart too much. That's just me. But
I hear you.
Yeah. So I would still stick if I was them. But, you know, they could get, if you're talking about future ones and you're talking about a pretty big offer, then that's something you have to consider. And
that's what I'm thinking. Like get in the middle of the first round, take the quarterback you like. I'm assuming they like a quarterback.
But here's the thing: that become like, would you end up going down, let's say, with the Bears at 10? Would you just end up drafting Dart, and then in the end, you're like, okay, well, now we got Dart at 10 in picks.
That's what I'm thinking, and I like the Thibodeau trade idea, but team number 2 has to like Thibodeau. You know, like if you're trying to get ahead of the Steelers, like in the Daniel Jeremiah draft, maybe Bengals are like, oh, I could use Thibodeau, let's do it. You know, but Team X is like, I don't have any interest in Thibodeau, I don't need him. You know. But it would be a nice chip to use.
Or you could trade picks and then trade Thibodeau to replace the picks.
Somebody else. Yeah.
There's a lot of ways to do it. I think it's less likely, but then again, still pick 3. It's still Abdul Carter.
No matter what, I think those players are going there for the bet reasons. And I don't know what team.
With some of the wild stuff we're seeing, Peter Schrager's mock draft had the Niners taking Walter Nolan at 11. Daniel Jeremiah didn't even have him in the first round. Like that's what we're talking about. You could go in the top 10 or not in the first round at all right now. That's where we're at on draft day. So it's going to be wild. Buckle up. It's going to be very unpredictable. But one of the
real quick, I mean, like often in drafts, people will be like, boy, pick 20 and pick 40 really aren't that different.
Yeah.
Pick 4 and pick 20 aren't any different. Pick 4 and pick 40 might not be all that different. I mean, that's really true in this one. Like Nolan's a perfect example. He could go. Everyone's talking about how the Panthers love him. They could take him at 8 or 9, or he could not even go in the first round.
Yeah, he's either on your board and he's a top 15 pick, or he's not on your board. Essentially, is what that is. Pick 4 is becoming kind of locked in. It feels like all these wild stuff and guys going up and down. Nothing on any of the insiders' boards and from all the reports, it's Will Campbell. That's their guy. And it's more than just, is he a tackle? And I went back and I looked at some guys who were, Skoronski, Joe Thuney, and some past guys that were tackles in college and were good guards in the NFL. And, Joe Thuney's been an awesome guard and was playing. I think it's a little bit unfair, too, to be like, oh, Will Campbell's going to be Joe Thuney in the NFL or going to be look like Joe Thuney in the Super Bowl. Joe Thuney wasn't practicing at left tackle for the last 5 years, right? Or
that's a little unfair to Thuney. Right?
He was pushed out. And height, weight, speed, Will Campbell is bigger, longer, and more athletic than Thuney and Skoronski too. So I just want to put that out there. So
that is noteworthy. And like Rashawn Slater's getting it done.
Right. He has longer arms than both of those guys. He's taller than both of those guys. And I think he tested better than both of those guys.
I also, to counter your argument, though, I think it's a little presumptuous to say from people say, well, if he's not a good left tackle, he'll be Thuney or Zach Martin at guard. I'm like, well, those two are probably going to the Hall of Fame. Like that's
and he's not, and also as his height makes him kind of the way he's built,
and his stance is ridiculous.
So
he doesn't look like a guard.
Yeah. And the reports are that it's not even about that as much as they believe in the human being. And he is
right.
He is a culture guy for Mike Vrabel. By the way, Vrabel's the one that made the pick of Skoronski, too.
Oh, good point. Okay. So. Maybe he's a center. I'm sure he'll be something, but that's still the 4th pick in the draft. I don't know. It still feels like settling to me. And I understand that the odds are saying that's the pick. But if I were the Patriots, I'd probably take 80 cents on the dollar to move back.
Maybe that could spur some trades that teams are willing to give up, willing to not take what it would normally take to move up. And could that spur some trades? Could that spur some even short trades, right? Like, would a team like, we talked about the Bears going up to.
I was thinking about the Bears. They have 2 second-round picks.
Right. Would the Bears, would it be cheap for the Bears to just go up to, 8? It's like, here's a 5th-round pick, and the Panthers like, well, we're going to get the same guy. So sure. Or going up to 5 or going up to 4. Like I was
even thinking 4 for Genty. I mean, you don't trade up for running backs anymore, but if I'm going to give you a better deal to go from 10 to 4, just give me a second. I know that I can get more, but you can get Genty for a first and a second. Man,
so it's minus 550. And for those of you who don't gamble, essentially if you have a plus, let's say Ashton Genty here at pick 4 is plus 500. That's 5-1 odds. And if
you put $1 down, you win 5.
Yeah, and it's and so they do it in hundreds because they want you to bet hundreds of dollars. I think is the way why they do it this way, because it's based on $100 bets. What does it take for $100? So if it's minus 550, you have to spend $550 to win $100. So if it's negative, then that's not really a good bet, and odds aren't in your favor, and that means it's overwhelming that Will Campbell's going to go number 4, which means the draft starts at 5, and the Jacksonville Jaguars, Matt, we'll get into them next. This episode of Peacock and Williamson brought to you by Monarch Money. You ever check your bank account and you wonder, where the heck did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, entertainment, it's so easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. So many insights. You realize how much you're spending on coffee, food delivery, and helps you budget smarter, save more. And maybe the best part is the easy collaboration. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. This episode is also brought to you by our friends at Gametime. And if you ever are planning on going to an event, a ball game, a sporting event, a concert, a comedy show, you got to have Gametime in your pocket before you buy those tickets. There's nothing like the atmosphere in an NBA playoff game that are going on right now. Every bucket, every defensive stop, every moment feels huge. It's electric in the arena. And with Gametime, you can be part of it without the stress of last-minute ticket hunting. Gametime makes it fast and easy to get playoff tickets, even when demand is sky high. And prices on the app actually go down as tip-off gets closer, and their last-minute deals can save you up to 60%. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. So, Matt, if the draft indeed does start at 5 in the Jacksonville Jaguars, what do you think is happening there now? The favorite is now Ashton Genty at pick number 5. It's minus 230 for Genty with the 5th pick, but the Mason Graham still hanging on there, was the overwhelming favorite before. Now he's plus 280. So you're getting pretty good odds for Mason Graham if you think there's some smoke screens happening here with the Jaguars. But the interesting one now is Ted McMillan, who's been all over the place. He's dropped all the way down, is now climbing all the way back up. And a lot of folks think it's going to be Ted McMillan. You get plus 850 here for Ted at 5 to the Jaguars.
I thought that's a possibility all along, and I kind of understand it. I don't think he's a great prospect, but I don't think there is a great prospect staring you in the face other than Genty, and he's a running back. And immediately people will be like, well, Tet McMillan's they're Mike Evans. I'm like, I think he's Michael Pittman. I don't think he's Mike Evans. I think he's a big body. You got your Mike Evans and Thomas. I lean towards it being Genty, though. Graham, to me, never sat right.
I still think it's Graham. I still think it's Graham, and I would pick Graham. That's me. I just think he's a baller. And again, I've talked about the package of what Mason Graham is. I think everything that Gladstone has learned from the Rams would lead him to Graham. That's why that pick makes the most sense.
That is a great point.
There might be just a directive. It's like our directive from head coach and from ownership. And look, it depends on who wears the pants here, right? Who's working for who. And so, Gladstone might be number 3 on that pecking order. And it's like, we're going to help our quarterback. So get him.
He was the last one hired, right?
Yeah. Because everyone else on the team, Tet McMillan, Kelvin Banks, which has serious helium, which is a wild one for me.
That is wild
to 1,700 now. And he's the favorite to go pick number 6 to the Raiders. Kelvin Banks?
I can't imagine. I know it's a left-right thing, but I can't imagine taking Banks over Membo. And they already have a left tackle.
I take that back. Membo is the betting favorite. But
okay, good. Okay.
Everyone's in plus territory. It's plus 125 for Membo, plus 210 for Kelvin Banks now at the 6th pick. And the latest reporting is that even if Genty was there, the Raiders wouldn't take him.
Which I get. I mean, hey, a tackle versus a running back. Both of us, 99% out of 100 would take the tackle. I mean, economics just tell you these things. And remember, their offense coordinator from Ohio State, he's probably looking at Judkins and Henderson in the 2nd round and be going, would I rather have a tackle or my guy from Ohio State, or would I rather have Genty and Trapillo or somebody like that? I would rather have the tackle. I almost always would rather have the tackle and then the skill guy next.
I think the dark horse is maybe Mason Graham here, the Michigan man, plus 1,000. Goes Membo, Banks, then Jalen Walker plus 450, then Genty plus 500, then a big jump. Double the odds for Mason Graham is 10-1. Then you got Will Campbell, who's like 40-1.
One thing I wish, we're really getting in the weeds here, but they drafted Glaze last year in the 3rd round, who took over at right tackle, and from what I saw, wasn't horrible. I don't know, he's good enough to prevent. I'm sure somebody could move the guard or whatever. That D line would be pretty nasty with either if they used it on edge or Graham there with Wilkins and Crosby, and that'd be a pretty nasty group.
If the Raiders landed on Banks, this has to be a place a team could trade up.
I would think. I think all these spots are. I think the Patriots would love to get out. I would think the Raiders would be very happy to get out. Can't you get a similar player 5 picks later? But who's trading up for who? No one's trading up for a quarterback in the top 10.
No, a team would probably, in my opinion, a team would be trading up for Membo, their offensive tackle of choice, or a defensive lineman of choice, because that's where the run I think is going to go, is defensive lineman here early.
I just wonder if a couple have to start falling first.
Right,
the edges,
You need 2 to go because you need one of your top 3 guys or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you think there's a big gap.
That's why I don't know anyone's going to go to 4.
And teams might not have a big enough gap to even care. Yeah, whatever.
Right. I'm just settle and I'll get Pierce, and if he's my 5th guy, he's still fine. Or
that brings us to
real quick. I noticed just the edge stuff. That was one more name I wanted to mention on DJs. Ezeruku, I kill his name, but he was like at 15. Like middle of the 1st round. He didn't sneak into the 1st round. He was middle firmly, which I get.
When you really look at it, and again, a lot with the defensive lineman is going to be fit.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many good odd front edge rushers in this class. But man, when you really look at the profile, Ezeruku's not that far off from Carter.
We started the show saying no one's clean. He's clean.
He's pretty clean. He ran a crazy good 3-cone, which is probably one of the most important things you can do as an edge rusher leading up to the draft as far as athletic testing goes. He's 2 pounds lighter than Carter,
Yeah.
And
I'm not saying he's Myles Garrett, but I don't see a lot of negatives.
Got a nice bag as a pass rusher too.
Mm-hmm. That adds up. If it's him versus Pierce or Green, guys that have serious concerns.
Where did Pierce go? Because he's got some off-field stuff. Where did he go?
You want to double check, but I would think he did not.
Did he not? Let me double check. I'll bring it up right now.
I'm going to pull it up too. But if so, it was to a playoff team late.
No Pierce either.
Okay. So a lot of these flag guys would be sitting there, and that would make day 2 pretty fun too. You're like,
what's going to happen is going to make the end of round 1 fun as well. So
yeah,
picks 20 to 40, 20 to 50 are going to be a lot more fun, I think, than picks 1 to 20.
People might know this, but I think it's worth reiterating on draft day, and happy draft day to all. Sometimes, like these red flag guys, maybe it's Nolan, it's Pierce, it's Green, blah, 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 whatever. Highly talented, but there's some concern, mostly character. Usually, or not usually, but often ownership will be like, we don't have to take him off the board, but you're not using our first pick on that guy. He can't be the billboard, He can't
be the guy that holds up the jersey who gets the most interviews. We can hide him in round 2. We're picking another player in round 2. Yeah.
You can take him 32, but you can't take him 33. Or you can take him 33, but you can't take him 32. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Trade up to the beginning of the round 2. And maybe there's going to be a lot of those dudes. DJ's kind of telling us.
And it might be teams trading up in round 2 at the top of round 2 to get some of those guys too. So
that's to say, when we reconvene tomorrow, it might be like, boy, there's 5 clear first rounders on the board right now.
There's 5 guys that would have a tape grade as good as the player who went number 4.
Right. right. That's a good way of putting it. Like that. If he went top 10, I wouldn't have batted an eye. And he might end up, it might be like Chris Jones, who had a better career than all of them as an early second rounder,
All right. Some more interesting ones. Let's go through some of these props. And specifically, I think number 21 is something I got to ask you about before we leave today. We'll get into that next. This episode of Peacock and Williamson brought to you by LinkedIn and LinkedIn Jobs. As a small business owner, your work never ends when the clock hits 5. Your business is always on your mind, which means when it's time to hire, you need a partner that works just as hard as you do. That's where LinkedIn Jobs comes in. When you clock out, LinkedIn clocks in. LinkedIn makes it easy to post your job for free, share it with your network, and get qualified candidates all in one place. And LinkedIn knows that small business owners and operators wear so many hats, so they help you do things like write job descriptions, tons of features to make it quick and easy to get your job in front of the right people with deep candidate insights. And here's a pro tip. You add the hashtag hiring frame to your picture, your profile picture, doubles the reach to qualified candidates. No wonder 72% of small businesses say LinkedIn helps them find high quality hires. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. So here we go. We're on to pick 7 here, and we're going to move a little quicker through some of these because I don't know what to think about this one. And everyone wants to throw tight ends in here in the top. We're seeing 2 tight ends go in the top 10. I'm not sure I'm buying it. I think smart money on pick 7 is you can get Armand Membo at plus 185. Tyler Warren's the number 1 option here at plus 175 for the Jets at number 7. You got Mason Graham at 430. I'm leaning defensive line here. I would go Mason Graham 430, maybe Jalen Walker plus 950. Unfortunately, they don't have like Shamar Stewart or Michael Williams even available because I think those are the dark horse end for potentially. But yeah, I might go Mason Graham here, one of the defensive linemen. I mean, Tyler Warren, tight end at 7. I don't see him as that type of a prospect. But the league loves these tight ends apparently.
I agree on Warren. Their pass catchers are Garrett Wilson and nobody else, but you could address that elsewhere. I mean, I would go with Membo. I kind of disagree with you on the edge guys. I mean, it sounds like they're going to pick up Jermaine Johnson. He's been out of sight, out of mind. They'll pick up his 5th year. McDonald's on every down player, but they're both former first-round picks. I mean, I could understand Graham, putting him next to Quinnen, or Membo to me would probably be my pick.
Yeah, at this point, you're just like, okay, who's got the highest grade? You know, and it's
They
Membo
need everything.
I would guess Membo or Graham. So I still think Membo, which was the chalky pick, and maybe I'm just kind of right back there.
Yeah, so. I mean, Fashanu goes to left tackle, and then you might have a really good line. Jets need a lot.
The Panthers are the team that needs to trade down the most, just because they have the most needs, and
any D line would help them.
It's got to be behind here, and it's been. I don't think Jalen Walker's for everybody, so I think there's a good chance he gets here, but he's not the betting favorite anymore. It's Mason Graham now because Mason Graham has dropped to the point where I think he's going to be the betting favorite for like all these teams at this point. Mason Graham is plus 180. Jalen Walker's plus 210. Then you get Michael Williams making his first appearance plus 650. Got Walter Nolan making his first appearance at plus 1200. And then you got Tet and Ty Warren coming up next.
They seem like a great candidate to trade down, just because any of those would be fine. Give me anything. I was just listening to the Athletic podcast Dane was on, and he said no one has done more work on Walter Nolan than Carolina.
Interesting. The 49ers.
You could maybe get him at 15. I don't know.
Niners have done a ton of work on Walter Nolan.
I bet.
I do know that. And so, yeah, this is the area. Again, it's like you either draft him here or he's not on your board. I think is
right. You either are comfortable and he's the talent that deserves to go here, or he's not for us.
Yeah. And so when Croc and I did our Locked On 49ers draft board, Mason Graham and Walter Nolan are essentially back to back.
I understand. I think Nolan's the better prospect in a vacuum.
And they're top 5 guys. I mean, upside for sure. I think Graham's a better player today.
No doubt.
Was a better player. But
Nolan's
again,
highlights are crazy.
Can I just get philosophical for a second? What is true upside for an NFL prospect? And when we get back to this point, and I would argue again, we start talking about length and height and speed and 40 times and all this stuff. In the end, it kind of goes back to the Patriots pick at 4. What's the ultimate upside? Mm-hmm. Right? What made Jerry Rice Jerry Rice?
That's what you're saying, right?
He wasn't Megatron. It's still like, how are you wired? Are you going to get every bit of athleticism out of you? Can you be trusted to do everything you need to do? Are you going to do extra? And that's ultimately where, Tom Brady, that's where the ultimate upside lies, is still from the neck up. And so I just want to say that about upside, because we get so enamored with physical tools and skills. That's still not the end. That's not what ultimate upside is in the NFL for these prospects.
And I look at like Albert Hainsworth, who was really good. I mean, a good player, but he could have been so good. Like if he's wired a little different. But now, are you unhappy if you get Albert Hainsworth at 10? Walter Nolan turns into Albert Hainsworth. It's still a good career. He still makes a lot of plays. But what could have been?
John Randall.
Right.
Perfect prototype, package.
Right, great call.
Aaron Donald wasn't the perfect package, right?
Yeah, but all those guys are great from the neck up.
Yeah. We're now
near the end here. Do we need to talk quarterbacks?
At 9?
No, we're getting up against it. I was going to say, we got to have a quarterback conversation at some point.
Yeah, we do have
we can talk 9, 10, all these guys go on.
Just real quick, what do you think at 9? I never know what this team is going to do. The Saints at pick 9. This could go a lot of directions. The betting favorite now is Michael Williams here. I've been putting Shamar Stewart there just because they always do something weird, and I think that's the perfect weird Saints pick. Is Shamar
I love
Stewart.
that.
Yeah,
but I always think they're the trade up team, but they're not trading up for a quarterback. They're not trading up for any of those guys.
How about this on FanDuel? There's no Shador Sanders option, but there is Jackson Dart, who's the second option at plus 500 at 9 to the Saints.
A couple people I've trusted have told me they are out on Sanders. I think there's a couple teams out on Sanders, and I think he made a major mistake and thought he was better than he was at the combine, blew some teams off, and really concentrated on like the Browns, and apparently, like the Steelers brought him in super late. Oh, best interview ever. Tomlin loves him. Well, I think if they would invite him a month ago, he'd be like, I'm not last at 21. I'm not coming in, like
yeah.
It was on his best behavior when he visits Pittsburgh, because now all of a sudden he burned some bridges.
And just so real quick, I want to get to the quarterback conversation just real quick. Yeah. It goes through the top 10 here at FanDuel, and number 10, the betting favorite is Tyler Warren, which is an interesting one for the Bears. Then it's Tet McMillan, which is kind of crazy. Then it's Kelvin.
I don't see that.
And man, I think defensive line has to be higher on this list. I think
Michael Williams.
Genty's 4 plus 1,200. I think that's still a possibility because teams just might not draft the running back.
I think that's as low as he could fall, though. I think they just run to the podium if Genty's there.
Loveland is a really popular one from insiders right now, plus 1,200 to the Bears. He's the 5th on this list, but that's a popular insider pick.
These tight ends are going to go high, aren't they?
I don't know. I've maybe.
Right. Two tight ends in the top 10, maybe. I mean, that's bonkers.
And at this point, if we're believing everything, Jackson Dart's going to go ahead of Shador Sanders. And it's going to be either 2 or 3 first-round quarterbacks That's what it feels like. Like I would set it at 2.5, and in fact, I believe 2.5 is the over under.
I think it is too. Yeah,
at FanDuel for quarterbacks in the first round. Milroe invited to the draft. Everyone's quiet on him. Are they too quiet on him all of a sudden? Is he the sneaky one? Shador Sanders, could he fall out of the first round? I think the Steelers are going to have a big say in this. Steelers are going to be on the clock at 21, and their quarterback one is Mason Rudolph. Are you going to not draft the quarterback? Are you going to pass on, say, Kenneth Grant to draft a quarterback at 21? Rodgers, do you tell him to kick rocks at some point?
That's what I say. If you get Sanders, I think you're just done with the veterans. Then you just go with Sanders and Rudolph and live with it. I wouldn't. I've been on record over and over. I'm not interested in Sanders or a quarterback at 21, but I would understand it. Right now, they're the betting favorite for that's where Sanders is going to land is Pittsburgh, and I do think that early in the process they thought there was no chance he gets to 21, and now that's like, well, we should have more conversations about this. McShay and others keep saying Tomlin loves him. You know, that it's very Tomlin driven, which if you're Sanders, that's the guy you want in your corner. You know what I mean? I can tell you that. And I would understand it, but it just screams Kenny Pickett to me. The reason I wouldn't do it is because I got to beat Burrow and Lamar twice. I want to take a bigger swing. Frankly, I'd take Milroe over.
It's hard to find a comp for Shador Sanders of what you would ultimately believe he is if you're drafting him as a first-round quarterback. Somebody I saw recently, and I don't remember who it was, comped him to Mac Jones. And I was like, gosh, that's a pretty good one, actually.
It's a pretty good one.
Yeah. And
I've like Gino. I've heard Bridgewater.
My favorite comp is Gino Smith because it's both his downside is bad Gino Smith and his upside is good Gino Smith. Right. So I think that's the perfect comp because
that's my problem.
Anywhere in there.
I've said over and over, I think Gino's like the most underrated quarterback in the league. So I don't mean that as a disrespect at all. But the best version of Gino Smith isn't what I'm after if I'm the Steelers. And the league has such a strong trend now that if you're a quarterback drafted in the second half of round 1 or the first half of round 2, you like always bust. It's Drew Lock and Levis and Pickett and those types where you just settle for a guy.
And again, Cousins is still lurking out there. And so Steelers would be a real nice fit for Cousins if you're Cousins and they don't draft a quarterback at 21. Then you're like, okay, maybe that's my team.
So I've gotten tons of tweets about this, which totally adds up, and I'm part of it. All the national people have Sanders going 21. All of us local people have the Steelers taking a defensive tackle for the next Cam Hayward.
Right.
The guys that are in the facility every day. But agents aren't telling us things. Schefter and DJ and these guys are saying, oh, Sanders is going to Pittsburgh. Where
they're hearing a lot of things, and they're hearing a lot of truths, and they're hearing some fibs as well.
Yeah.
And again,
Williamson, who's going down to eat down there in 2 hours, is going to hear D tackle.
And I love this because Daniel Jeremiah is a perfect example. He's plugged in, and if you saw this mock a month ago, you would think he needed his head examined. So there's some truth in some of this stuff and why he put guys where they are. But just as a reminder, last year, and that was an easier year to know where the quarterbacks were going and get some picks right. He had the first 4 picks right. I think he had Malik Neighbors right, and then he had like maybe one other direct hit in the entire first round. But he had a lot of guys very close. And I think he did actually have Bo Nix to the Broncos, but it was after a trade down. So
no one thought that they were taking him. No one thought they were sticking and picking. And no one thought Penix was going to Atlanta.
Yeah, and even the most plugged in people don't know everything. And some of it's impossible to know because you can know that a scout in an organization likes a player, but the GM has literally not told anybody. Like as we sit right now,
scout has 2 bosses. I mean, he's got a boss who has a boss. Right?
Yeah. So there are literally organizations where only one person knows, and unless that person told somebody, and they didn't even tell their assistant GM who they're about to take, you think they're going to go tell Adam Schefter who they're about to take? I don't think so.
A lot of these war rooms, especially today, might have the owner, GM, and coach in it.
Right.
I mean, I wasn't in it with the Browns. I was in the pre-draft stuff, but on draft day, I was in my office if they needed something,
Right. Yep.
I mean, and that's how it goes. And they can change their mind at the last minute, too. Like, I probably told this story a million times, but it was before I was there. Every scout will back me up on this that worked for the Browns at the time. They broke the meetings the day before going, we're going to take Richard Seymour. We know who the first 2 picks are going to be or whatever. And Butch Davis, because he recruited him in Florida, changed his mind last minute, and they took Gerard Warren.
Wow.
You know, like every scout was watching on TV going, oh, here comes Seymour. Great. You know, congratulations. Break out the champagne.
Yeah.
And with the third pick of the draft, the Browns take Gerard Warren.
And meanwhile, South Antonio or whoever who got the information about Seymour is like, man, I got burned. I can't trust that scout ever.
I got burned. Right. And they were exactly what their plan was. It was a last-minute audible, you know. That stuff happens too.
Yeah.
Last thing I'll throw out. We just mentioned how no one saw Atlanta taking a quarterback. Is there one of those teams, the Rams, the Raiders, Seattle?
Well, even then, we can still predict it. Like the Raiders is less shocking than nobody. Like, more people think it's a possibility the Raiders would draft a quarterback or the Rams would draft a quarterback than last year thinking the Falcons, just because they had spent so much money on Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, even though they just re-upped Stafford and traded for Gino, but those guys are pretty old, you know, right?
Yeah.
No one thought Atlanta was coming, right?
And
so
everyone thought truly shocking one would have to be. I'm bringing up the mock draft just because I want to look at the teams real quick, and we got to go. We have 30 seconds.
Miami. I mean, I'm Minnesota. No, I mean, I'm really straining here. The Colts.
Yes, Colts is a good one. The
Jets, but that's like round 2 stuff.
Like the Cardinals.
Someone wants to get out of a contract, you know, right?
Yeah, want to put some heat, but again, that would have to be. That'd be
probably more round 2 stuff, you know.
The Jets for sure shouldn't be.
Jets shouldn't shock anyone.
But that
Colts, I don't think should shock us.
Yeah,
it's hard,
and like people will think the Steelers are nuts if the first round ends and they have no Rodgers, no Cousins, no Shador.
Only Rudolph, right?
Yeah, right. And they'd probably be right to think that.
And I understand it, but I do know they talk to Rodgers like every day.
So basically the Steelers go D-line at 21 and then fight like heck to trade up for Milroe from their 3rd round pick.
One thing I can tell you is they would love to go backwards in this draft. After trading their 2nd for Metcalf, they would love to go to 25, 28, 30. And then it makes it more feasible, maybe, you know?
Unlike the teams,
maybe you can get both.
Unlike the teams in the top 12 picks, they might have more suitors for 21 that actually want to come.
Right. Yeah. And maybe you get a D lineman and a quarterback with you know, your first 2 picks then.
And they would be the team a team would move up in front of for the quarterback.
That's why I wonder if that's what they really want. So another player falls to them.
Interesting.
I don't know. I think if a team trades up with the Steelers, it's for a tackle. I think it's like the Chiefs or the Texans come up to get Connerly or Simmons or, you know.
We're about to find out tonight. The draft is on. 2025 NFL draft. Enjoy it. Let us know what you think. If you have any questions that pop up for next week's mailbag, we'll break down everything that goes on in the draft in the first round on tomorrow's episode here on Peacock and Williamson. And we'll talk to you then. Have fun. Draft day. Let's go.